Brant Boer is the 49ers' new special teams coach. Let's talk about him for a second. He is 53 years of age, born in Ogden, Utah, and he's been the special teams coordinator for the Jets. And obviously, he comes over because of the nod from Robert Saleh. He actually was a player. He was selected by the Jaguars in the '95 expansion draft. And then I played his rookie season as a 6th-round pick of the Dolphins after 5 seasons with the Jags. Spent 3 seasons with the Browns. And he was an assistant special teams coach with the Indy and then moved to the Jets. Went to high school in Utah and played college football at Snow College. He was a former linebacker, then transferred to the University of Arizona. Played in the NFL, as I said, Miami, Jacksonville, and Cleveland. And actually played decently. Played 130 games in the NFL. Only started 17, and then began his coaching career as an intern with the Browns in 2009, and then worked with the New York Giants as a training camp intern in 2010, and then worked with the Colts special teams from 12 through 15, and he worked with Pat McAfee and Vinatieri in Indy. Then the Jets hired him in February of 2016. And despite the fact, I guess in 2021, the Jets went 4-13, his special teams ranked 2nd in the NFL, according to DVOA. So there you go. And obviously the 49ers have had no success on special teams. They were considering Nick Sorensen for special teams. Ultimately, they were 31st in DVOA on special teams. So at this point, the Niners may know nothing at all about Brant Boer other than Robert Saleh says, hey, he's great. But when you're 31st in special teams, there's really nowhere to go but up. So it's like you're not really taking much of a risk. He's bound to be as good or better. I mean, the odds are he'll be better. There's only one team worse. So if he's worse, he's really bad.
All I'll say is this. You could throw a rock in a crowded bar and hit somebody who's probably going to coach better special teams than the Niners had last year. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a Brant Boer historian or anything like that. It just kind of proves that the 49ers are damn well lucky that Robert Saleh's game of musical chairs brought him back to them, because special teams seems to very much still fall under the Kyle Shanahan, somebody else do it umbrella. I mean, that's okay. But,
Well, I mean, here's the other thing, Damon, about the special teams, and it's a little annoying. Kyle Shanahan said earlier this year, I don't care about winning the game on special teams. I just don't want to lose it on special teams.
Well, you failed because you keep losing games on special teams.
Well, right. But I mean, you've stated, when that is your stated position, then when other people come back to you later in the year, like it happened in this presser where Kawakami was like, I know you're not big on special teams. And then all of a sudden, Lynch is like, hey, Kyle's really big on special teams. He spends a lot of time on special teams. Well,
not according to Kyle.
Kyle himself said, I don't want to win the game on special teams. I just don't want to lose it on special teams. That's not, we didn't invent that. He said that earlier this year. So when that is your stated spot, your stated, your stated mission position, or whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, your mission statement about special teams is that we don't care about winning the game on special teams. We just don't want to lose it. Well, guess what? Then you have opened yourself up to people saying, well, we know you're not that big on special teams. And it's like, okay, there's probably a little difference between, the two things, but you know what? It's not crazy to say you're not big on special teams when in the same calendar you said, I just don't want to lose the game on special teams. So
yeah,
I know everybody's defending everybody, and it's us against them and this and that, and Lynch is going to defend Shanahan because he felt like he was being attacked, but Shanahan said that earlier this year, so I mean he's got to own that. I mean that's 100%. That's what he said.
Yeah, 100%. And look at it this way: his version of owning that is now letting Robert Saleh take care of that. Hopefully Robert Saleh's got higher standards for his special teams appointed coach than Kyle Shanahan's had for his. Because this is the 2/3 of this team's coaching staff are Robert Saleh's decisions now. What he does as a defensive coordinator, he brings in the special teams coordinator. Robert Saleh is better have a huge year.
Well, I mean, I like it. I like this. I mean, okay, I'm a believer that old people know everything and young people know nothing. And I know that sounds really, I know there's going to be a lot of people who will be like, oh, you get all, okay, boomer and all the, whatever. I'm not a boomer, but whatever. Call me whatever you want. But it's really true. You can sit there. Why? Because experience is what matters. Experience is how you learn in life. Were you a good talk show host the first day? Maybe. You were better after getting experience.
Sure.
Were you good at whatever you do the first day? Sure. But you're better today with more experience. I don't think it's
the only person who would devalue experience is someone without it.
Experience is absolutely what do they look for in jobs? It's like, hey, there's prerequisites. I need you to have worked in a similar field for a year. I need you, people want to see that you have the experience to do it. That's just a common thing. It cuts across industries. Okay, so experience really is the name of the game. The 49ers got rid of Brian Schneider, who was experienced. And they were talking about replacing him with Nick Sorensen, who was not very experienced. He'd only coached special teams one time, and they were dead last in special teams the year he coached it in Jacksonville. So I there was a lot of talk that the Niners were going to go for a younger special teams coordinator who did not have a ton of experience but would bring lots of energy. And instead, they went the opposite route. They went with a proven veteran coach in Brant Boer. Now, I can't tell you tons about Brant Boer, but one thing I can tell you is that he was the special teams coordinator for the Jets beginning in 2016, and he did survive 3 different head coaching changes and was on the staff under Robert Saleh, there in New York. But I mean, so they blew out 3 different staffs and they kept their special teams coach. So, I mean, that tells me that, 3 different regimes saw value in Brant Boer. So he, as I said, he was, prior to joining the Jets in 2016, he was the Colts assistant special teams coach for 4 years, 2012 through 2015. So anyway, we'll see where it goes. There's nowhere to go but up. You're 31st in special teams. You can't do a whole lot worse. Well, Shanahan doesn't sound like he had a connection with anybody that was good, but maybe Saleh does. And if that's the case, then you know what? Bring it on. Bring it on. The Niners have done everything else, right? They invested high picks in special teamers. They invested free agent dollars in special teamers. That now they've got a coordinator with experience who comes recommended from Robert Saleh from the Jets. So we'll see. They did have a return for a touchdown last year, or they had a couple fakes or something. They did some things that the Niners would never do.
Every single special teams coordinator is basically sitting down at the same poker table, right? You got a kicker that is, around league average. You got a punter who's he's a fucking punter. No big deal. You get one of those anywhere. And what you really have is like the last 8 guys on the roster to play with. That's what you really get. You get the bottom third, the bottom 5th of the roster to really be your group, to come together and just play competent. Like not a lot of games are won on special teams. So I'm not going to crucify Kyle for saying, we're not trying to win on special teams. But the truth is you can win a game on special teams. That can be a value add if you try to coach it into being that. If you're just going to let it all, it doesn't really matter that much, then don't expect much to ever happen. And certainly for the 49ers, not much has ever really happened on special teams.
It's bad. And all those things that happen are bad. I mean,
for the last 20 years, special teams has been a yawn.
Yeah, I mean, they outside of Brad Seeley, when Harbaugh was here, when they had guys like Blake Costanzo, and they really were good on coverage units, and they had a real good run there.
Right, you had
under Brad Seeley
Jr.
But other than that,
much.
Niners have been bad on special teams. And this year, week 2, there was a blocked punt against Minnesota. Week 3, there was a fake punt for a first down, and then a huge return late in the game that led to the Rams coming from behind and beating the 49ers. I mean, there were major F-ups all season long on special teams. And it couldn't continue. I mean, they probably should have fired Schneider halfway through, but they didn't sound like they had an idea for anybody who was any better, and they just rolled with it, and it wound up burning them most of the year. So, I agree with Shanahan. You don't necessarily have to win the game on special teams. You don't have to have some super creative way to win the game on special teams, but you have to be competent. You have to be efficient. You have to play mistake-free football. When was the last time the 49ers went, I don't know, an entire game with no penalties on special teams? I mean, it's like 49ers special teams and penalties are just like one and the same. I mean, they just go hand in hand.
The Niners this year, the 49ers played one good game all year, the Bears game. And sadly, it's probably more reflective of the Bears being bad than it was the Niners being good. But they played one really well-balanced four-quarter football game all year, and it was against Chicago. And that was it. Every other game had easy to see.
The Jets game was pretty decent. The Jets game wasn't bad. The Dallas game had a good third quarter, but you're right. They didn't play. They didn't put a 4-quarter game together all year for the most part. And that's why it was like late in the year too, when people were like, well, you know what? If they just win out, it's like, what? Win out? They can't even win back to back. And you have them running the table. Well, if they win every game the rest of the year, yeah. And but yeah,
Larry, did my Philadelphia Eagles draft prep segment give you the feeling of me not mailing in this show?
We never mail it in.
Girls, we try not to mail it in, but we're all human. We've all got flaws. And let me tell you, this time tomorrow, I am on a plane with my wife heading to just south of Cancun, Riviera Maya. We're going to be in Mexico for 4 days. I got 4 nights of fish on the beach. There will be margaritas. There will be other things. It's going to be a really, really good time. But, Larry, that means I am not with you for the rest of the week. So no wake up on Monday on Wednesday or Friday. And I'll be back a little wookish next Monday for you.
Well, enjoy yourself. We'll be here working hard, as we always do, growing the empire of Krug Channel Nation. So looking forward to that.
It's an empire and a nation now.
Oh, it's a nation. It's an empire. It's a movement. Oh, by the way, here we go. This, just so we have a little context, since we just threw this out there on this Brant Boer. Here's a little extra info for those.
Here's a real fan of mine. Big Money Music says, take your time, Damon. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jets special teams DVOA. 2024 with 5 different kickers, they were 29th. So they didn't have a good year this year. But last year, 5th, 2022 2nd, 2021 2nd, 2020 4th, 2019 2nd. So that's good. I mean, that's good. I'll take that right there. That looks good. I'll take that all day and every day. That's a major step up. Is it not?
That's a major step up, without a doubt. You give. How about that? You can take five positions away from each of those ending positions, and it's still a massive upgrade. You can add a digit to everything. Drop from 2 to 12, and you've still done better than what the Niners did last year. So